And if you're in these two roles that I'm going to speak to you specifically at, this is where you guys will start to pay attention. This specific talk is for those who are building revenue, in charge of revenue, responsible for revenue, and responsible for growing the company. The other group this is for is the ones that support that. So as long as you're in the same space, I think we're in a good position. Expect to come from California to get into our hotel and to see a bunch more Americans wearing football jerseys. Did not anticipate this. Welcomed, felt comfortable, but it's very different when you step foot in Frankfurt and you hear a southern accent about to cheer on a Taylor Swift boyfriend. Very, very unique. I am very grateful to be here. It's taken me 5 years to think about this presentation. This has been around for 4, and for the last 3 specifically, we've been focused on building this. And so a lot of the talks that we've seen has been around tactics that you can take, preventing ad loss, new platforms, new ads. And what we've been able to do across the last 5 years was build revenue generation teams, whether you call it an agency or whether you call it a marketing department that lives within your brand organization. The same core role is I need to generate revenue and I need to preserve revenue, whether that's paid media or whether that's email and SMS. So a lot of what we're talking about, you're going to learn a couple of things specifically. 1, am I doing the right thing do I have the right teammates in my organization? 2, am I hiring from the right areas? And 3, is this what my organization look like at these different stages of 0 to 5 million, 5 to 10 million, and then 15 million plus? I'm only going to speak from those lenses, mainly because those are the sizes of the businesses that I run. My name is Nick Shackelford from Orange County, California. It's a long ways away, and usually I'm not staying too long in Frankfurt, but I'm so thankful that I'm here now. Weather's a little bit different from Orange County, I'll tell you that much. The last 4 companies that we have, they're all in paid media growth. We have Structured, we have Constant, we have Lucent, and then most recently we have Breeze. I'm gonna get a show of hands. I can't see anything because it's raining, so you guys can feel comfortable in raising your hand. How many of you consume marijuana or THC? No one's raising their hands. Okay, I'll raise my hand because we definitely do in California. Lights went off, thankfully. We're able to do a direct consumer selling an actual drink to your door in Shopify, THC and CBD. Very unique. The way we're able to do that is by building the core teams that we have here. So 5 years ago when we started, I was like, I have something to do. I'm gonna find out how to get there. So to find out, you're obviously gonna learn a couple things or two to how to get to this point. And it's all specifically around generating teams that generate revenue. 2019, the level that we got at was just under $1 million. This was, we knew how to run paid media, we knew how to do email. That got us to a certain point. Those core skills, which started for your company internally, you probably have this. You use the founder, your head of retention, head of marketing, whatever you're generating, you probably have this skill. In 2020, we're able to just double that by acquiring other skill sets, having the right teammates there, getting the right structure. Then things went incredible in 2021. All of us had an incredible year. This is when everybody kind of woke up. COVID was a benefit for us that spent money online or sold products online. 2022 was another incredible year, and then where we're at right now, what we anticipate to finish this year at is just hitting that 8-figure mark. This has been the 5 years of growth, and throughout those 5 years specifically, there's a couple of core assets. Starting from where you began, this is kind of a little bit of our story. If you were to sum it up, what was that season like for us? We look at that season in those years. And this last part is where we're talking about today, because this is where things really got right. We can't look back at what happened during the COVID era, during those COVID eras, specifically online, because it's uncommon. Consumer behavior was not the same, especially in the American market. And if you're in these two roles that I'm gonna speak to you specifically at, this is where you guys will start to pay attention. This specific talk is for those who are building revenue, in charge of revenue, responsible for revenue, and responsible for growing the company. The other group this is for is the ones that support that. So as long as you're in the same space, I think we're in a good position. And the overall game plan is, here's the 2 different stages of where revenue will be, and then at the end, I have a bunch of templates that we use. You guys can just scan it, you can implement it yourself. So very excited to go into it. Every time it's a generation and a preservation stance. Depending on where your company is at, depending on the role in which you're providing, this is where you're gonna live in. If you're in the generation stance, you're usually gonna have the media buyer, the affiliate marketer, the copywriter, and overall content creator. The same exact positions that you have here are gonna be in the preservation role. Preservation roles sit, and these are the areas that you can check off the box once we start to understand where they need to live at. Your email, your SMS, your copywriter, your designer again. Then you have the cross-functional roles. This roles where everyone are supporting these two different departments. This isn't a structure, this isn't an agency, this is a team that's in charge of driving revenue. And a lot of these conversations are happening today. Anybody listen to the All In podcast or know who Alex Hormozi is? They've talked about, I'm lowering a lot of my ad spend. I'm not gonna talk as much, mainly because I just wanna spend my time creating content and building the teams and processes to do that, and we wanna pull back on ad spend. That's not a trend that's just happening in the States. That's gonna be a trend that's happening across in the German markets, across in the EU markets, because they know the investment in time for content is almost more difficult than building the programs for paid media or retention. It takes much more time, and the fact that you have to get there takes a lot more dollars. And so these cross-analysis roles are extremely important for us to kind of sit there to make sure that everybody can do the right positions. And what we'll get to be talking about deeper is at what stage, what roles do I need to make sure I have so that you can go back to the agency, you can go back to your team and be like, why aren't we doing this? We're at this stage. Because we've seen reps, we've had a lot of companies. And anybody should know that the core objective of any company is to use the assets that we have to generate more. And we've seen a couple of these people try and fail. I'll name some brands. You have Thrasio, you have BBG, Elevate, Perch, Heyday, Unibrands. This was the conglomerate when everyone said that we're going to do the roll-up vehicles, and we're just going to buy a bunch of these brands. Cool, Amazon product, put it in the basket, this thing, makeup. But they didn't know how to build teams that knew brand, revenue, preservation, generation. And we did this specifically. So we launched our brand on 420. So any of you guys are in this space. If you launch a THC or a cannabis brand on 420, you're probably going to get a good look. From launch on 420, this is our current revenue as of updated screenshot was end of October, 247. 500K in revenue, about 600 now because of this month. We've been growing month over month, and this is the same team, same structure, same area that we're building in, so it works on the brand side. And at the end of the day, any marketing team, their job is to drive rev. But there's always this issue with pulling and pushing. If you push it and pull, there's a difference between how this should be set up, and this is the way I would look at the team. You have a generation team, preservation team, performance, brand. This is a performance on-demand team. This is the core at how everybody should be operating because the cross-functionalities have to live together to drive, at the end of the day, more revenue. Hard stop. At these various stages, here's what it looks like. If I'm starting to build on my 0 to 5 million, these are the team members that can get us there. I can feel comfortable about these roles. I'm okay with spending my money on these core roles. They don't have to be in-house. They can be out of house, but as long as they're in these positions, I'm happy. I'll do 2 call-outs specifically here. Growth and commerce manager. Oftentimes, this is the CEO. Oftentimes, this is the highest person in the company. It doesn't always have to be, but this is the person that's in charge of where's product, what are the offers, and where are we gonna do any new partnerships. Then I'm gonna grow up a little bit, and I'm gonna add all that as I move into the second phase. And the thing at the top, the project manager, the person that's in charge of navigating everything, this is when non-revenue generating roles are gonna begin to be a part of the OpEx, and we have to understand this. Where we're at with our brand, we understand that we don't need these operations. Everybody's wearing many hats. I'm okay with that. This is when the creative strategist comes into play, and this is when I need to start expanding into different markets specifically. Then we get all the way to that 15 million. I would even say 15 plus. You can kind of get to where you need to be here, and you can kind of stay dangerous until you get into that 25, 50 million range. This is that team stack. And what this looks like to me is understanding who works for you and who doesn't. And those are 2 different names I've been flirting with this. But when you look at your team, there's some that are nationalists. They love you, they love your brand, they love the founder, they believe in you, and they're gonna do everything for you. Then you have the for hire. They want to be paid. They just want money. They want to do a role, they want to get out, and they want to call it a day. Neither of those, there's nothing wrong with them, but you need to know where they stand, because when things get rough, when you do go into a position where it's not going to generate revenue, you want to know who's with you for a reason. And it's, again, there's no right or wrong way, but you just need to know who's on your team at the end of the day. And so when we're looking to build, who should we own? Our nationalists. Who's going to rep the brand, support the founder, be a part of the team when things get tough? It'll be the in-house or the out-house, the for-hire, the assassins that are going to come in and just do a core thing for us. Paid media on the left, I think we always need to own Meta and Google. That should always be in-house at the brand, especially if you have the competency of knowing what you're doing and dangerous, at least at this size. And then the non-core, the TikToks, the content generations, the creators, the influencers, you can hire that out, and that way you don't have to kind of offset the trouble that you have internally. Then we kind of grow up a little bit and we get into that 5 to 10 string. This is when I need an influencer. This is when I need product seeding. This is when I need to get a lot more content. So you'll see that shift of generating more product, specifically around content. And that role is so difficult to have out-house because they just don't know the brand. They're not fighting for you. They're not trying to negotiate their rates down. And this area of that 5 to 10 million is where you can save a lot of money by having these roles in-house, we found. And then this is where the creative strategy, this is such a buzzword in America. It's like, oh, creative strategy. They just work on creative strategy. All they do is creative. I need them to actually drive revenue for me, and so they need to have an analytical background and know how to push some buttons in the Facebook or in the Googles. And then lastly, if I get to the 10 to 15, I want to have an international expansion and a translator. There's a lot of larger brands that once they understand whether it's the German market, whether it's the Spanish market, whether it's the Austrian market, they know that they can't just throw up a website and run English pages or run English ads to this market. At various sizes, we're looking for expansion because of the American market so large. But at this point, it does make sense to localize. And at this rate, not many people are taking enough advantage of that, so that as an opportunity for this market, finding US brands that want to do expansion, we're hungry. We want it. We want to be here. We know that the market is growing. We know that there's dollars to be found here, but we don't know how to do it correctly. And what we found specifically around building our teams, this is what it looked like. This next string of slides are going to be screenshots of documents that we use for hiring and for firing. And so this will help a little bit because we found out that we lost so much money on hiring American talent. Look, proud American, love what I do, but fuck. Having a full team of Americans is so much drama. It's just so much chatter, it's so much questions, it's a lot of how'd you say? I think the term is wokeness. I think what we kind of love around here. And so we try to get away from it. So we found a lot of the areas where we actually hire teams depending on development, content, paid media, strategy, product development. This is where we would use these different areas. So this will link you straight to it. To make sure we did it 3, 2, 1, this is how we hire. This is all the documents of what we do. This is the job descriptions from our core team, our core 4 teams. And then this is how we pay them, depending on the revenue in which they generate for us. So all of that, you have the places we're hiring from, we have the roles that they're responsible for, and then we have the structures in which they should be paid. Those are the core areas, whether you're in a brand, whether you're in an agency, it doesn't really matter because these roles have to be hired if you care about generating revenue. And then lastly, what margin do I need to live with and run with? This is how we operate most of our teams. This is from email, this is from paid, this is from content, this is from influencer. As long as they're able to generate the margin that we need, we know we can continue to hire, we know we can continue to grow. And this has changed for us. 5 years of this has changed. And so it used to sit like this, which is very traditional, 2019 to 2021. Account management's right here, not talking to anybody. As a fully remote team, it's very difficult. If they're not in office, they're not in town, you don't know what's going on. And then you have design. If design isn't in a place where they can have a lot of collaboration, it's an issue, especially if they're not talking to the rest of the team, as well as media buyers. They just stay to themselves. We had to change that. So everyone felt siloed, there was no accountability. And the incentivization, we couldn't pay them more because we didn't know exactly how often they were working or what they were working on specifically. 2021 to 2023, we changed into the pod team that we just talked about. That's where a lot of our success went. It went at the right time with COVID, so we're able to move fast, be lean, and maximize profits because we knew the incentive program was around the margin targets that we set with the document earlier. That way we knew we were making money, we can continue to hire. And then what we're looking at right now, this is something that we're building. I don't think we'll be finished. At the max of 2023, June of this year, we had 127 employees. As I speak here today, we have 48. Because we realized 2 things. Whatever we're about to go into, and I'm not a guy that's like, oh, AI is gonna change it, it's gonna be incredible. I'm not in that camp, but I'm definitely in the camp of there's a lot of people being paid for things that they aren't necessarily incredible at, and they probably should be double checked, and we should probably see if we can find different work to be done, and that's what we've done. We've been able to increase margins as well as increase efficiency just by pulling a lot of the bloat back, and I think a lot of us went through that in 2020 to 2021. So this is what our current structure looks like. All the teams have a head. The heads operate across various pods. The revenue of each team is set at what growth rate we want to have, and this is on a month-to-month, quarter-to-quarter, and year-by-year. Nothing will change unless the growth rate decides to change top down. And we set that up for this. So if you're the brand and you're trying to choose, how do I spend money? Where do I spend the money? And what does it look like if I were to actually hire a team? I think this document is for you specifically. Then if I had some final notes or final thoughts on this overall, our team structure's changed, pretty straightforward. Revenue, the only thing that matters is revenue. We record at calls every time, every call, internal, external, we record every single call. This will never change. It holds everybody accountable. I'm curious to know if that's actually even legal in the EU, if you guys can record every single call. We do. And then we moved away from weekly calls to bi-weekly. We just wanted more space and time and make sure that people were actually doing the work and not stuck on calls. I appreciate everybody's time. This has been an incredible time here, and I can't wait to talk to you guys outside. Thank you very much.